set aside your weekend. It's time to start planning that this is how it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be bitter. Don't be crabby. Don't be mad that your phone blew up.
Yeah.
This is the mark that we're in. You're going to work really, really hard
Mm-hmm.
for 4 days, and then you have to do the rest of your job also. And don't be a crybaby. That's
Right.
the way this is. And if you do an extraordinary job and you guide your seller through this and you get them top dollar, right? Now you have bragging rights to go get another listing. Good morning, everyone.
So today's topic is going to be handling multiple offers to get your seller even more. So we've been talking all month about getting more listings. We're hoping that people have been taking our advice and they have more listings, and now they're going to have a bunch of offers that they need to deal with.
Yes. Well, I think even this week, Charlie, I'm surprised that when I say, if you do a good job, you can get them more, I get pushback. Like, Nope, the market's strong. Don't have to do anything. And so I feel like we have to start there. The market is strong. You don't have to do anything. And your seller wouldn't even have to hire you. They could put a sign on their mailbox and sell their house.
Yeah.
The question is, at what price and with what terms? The fallout rate in my MLS right now, Charlie, is 30%. That it goes under and it bounces back up.
Wow.
Are you an agent who's creating that 30% bounce rate, right? Or do you have processes that help you vet the offers, help you not guarantee, that's a very strong word, but help you to guide your seller to choose the offer that is most likely to stay strong? There are so many things that we can do. And so I have prepared quite a list of things to keep in mind, but I don't want to fire hose you. I want this to be a conversation.
Well, I have a couple thoughts. One is are listing agents doing their due diligence when they're choosing the best offer? Are they having a conversation with the lender if there's financing? Are they paying attention to the track record of the buyer's agent? I was talking to a group about this earlier this week around company reputation, the reputation of the agent. And, sometimes these offers don't come down to just price. We know that, right? There's other terms. And if you're a buyer's agent, you have a good reputation, or your company does, that gives you a leg up. And I think that listing agents need to be paying attention to that as well. Do you have a relationship with an agent who is always getting stuff to closing, or if there's two offers neck and neck, are you choosing one that maybe is with an agent that doesn't really know what they're doing, and the pre-approval letter is not as good as the paper that it's on, right? Or, so there's more nuance to this than, well, this is the highest price, so this is who we want to go with. And a 30% fallout rate that's huge for a number of reasons. And I was talking to somebody else this week, and they were talking about how their buyer walked on homeowners documents. And I was just thinking, gosh, you fight so hard to get the property.
Yeah.
You elbow out, 12 other competitors.
Right.
And then you walk because the homeowners association does quarterly inspections, or that's what the documents say. Right. I mean, it's just so surprising to me that people go through all this pain. They write multiple offers. They finally get one.
Yep.
And then 30% are walking due to some reason.
Sure.
I'm completely befuddled when it comes to buyers, because normally they're it's their decision normally, right? Sure. Maybe that's bad home inspection, but a lot of people aren't even getting home inspections. So it's like, you think that these deals would be more sticky because it's so painful to get to a deal right now.
Right. Well, the problem is, and we saw this in Denver actually 6 years ago, their market started to escalate as badly as the rest of us are suffering with now. And there was so much buyer remorse because you had to do so much. It's sort of like you felt you were under the gun. And so you just, okay, maybe it was adrenaline, you put it all out there, and then cooler heads prevail. And you're like, wait, whoa. And then you have inspection as an out later. So let's talk about the many things that the listing agent can do to attract the strongest possible offers and help the seller choose. Of course, we don't have control over how the buyer's agent educates their buyer.
Right.
So here's my suggested list. The first thing is the listing agent really needs to understand the market themselves, right? You've really got to study the market, do your due diligence, understand the pace of the market, price accordingly, right? What is average days on market? Part of having a good experience is making sure that the seller understands what to expect and the seller has a good experience.
Sure.
So start with understanding the market extremely well when you take on this client, and then walk them through it. Be clear to set expectations about what is your active competition compared. In my market, Charlie, normally I would only go back to 30 days of sold comparables. 60 days is probably not relevant unless the home is extremely high priced or very, very unique. And then we want to think about price and condition of those sold, those 30, 60 days. I wouldn't go back more than 60. That's like ancient history in my market.
Right. Yeah.
So we had reported, I think 3 months ago, that year over year our market was up 12%. And then I saw a news report this week that said it was 20. And I haven't dug in to figure out how, because, stats, right? Numbers you choose to make up based on depending on where you pull them from.
Right.
So I need to do some math. But now agents are starting to anticipate a 1 to 2% monthly bump. That's also kind of made up, but that it really is kind of indicative of the pace of our market. So understand that. Set really clear expectations with your seller about what the negotiating strategy might be. And this is super controversial. And Charlie, you and I could probably spend the whole show just on this topic. So I'm going to share and you jump in.
Okay.
So this is a little bit of a side trail because I really want to talk about preparing the property. Well, maybe I'll go there and then I'll loop back. So preparing the property. People say, I don't have to. Everything sells. That's right. Everything does sell. What I'm going for is if you do the property preparation, if you have a pre-inspection and you can advertise it as pre-inspected, if you do the staging, if you do the lifestyle video, if you do all the things, you are going to attract pretty enthusiastic, pretty committed buyers, right? Harder to have buyer's remorse when every time you walk in there, you're like, damn, this is it. This is
right.
it. We did the right thing. I've shared the story when I train at your brokerage about helping my daughter buy a house. That thing, it just vibrated. That house sang. And as scared as I was to pay so much for a 130-year-old house with one bathroom, there was something about that house.
Yeah.
It glowed, right? And you could just, the minute you get regrets, go stand in the yard and you're like, no. And I said to her, we stole this thing. And it sort of was like, it felt like it emotionally, like we stole it. On paper, it was still, so I think preparing the property and making it just glow so that every single buyer who is swinging for the fence with their offer isn't going to panic later and say, I don't know, the carpet's kind of matted and the whole thing's kind of a strange color and wow, there's work left to be done. And then they bounce at inspection because cooler heads prevailed, right?
Well, and doesn't that speak to the strategy and the system that the listing agent has? Ideally, these are all the same, right? So your standard is the same. Your standard of excellence is the same, which will also attract more sellers, which is what everybody wants. Like people are like on every call, every coaching call, I need more listings. Give me another listing. Help me get more listings. Well, if all your listings look really good and they're presented well, that's going to lead to more listings when the neighbors walk into the open house or whatever. So that's really a side trail. But we talked before about what is your listing standard and are we lowering it because it's going to sell in a weekend? And is that really what's best for our business?
Well, if you lower your standard, depending on the price and depending on the market, it's not a standard. So very, very nice sidebar. come on, people. This is your standard. This is your brand. I absolutely think you have to hold the standard and do a really, really good job. It is for your career. Selfishly, it's for you. But unselfishly, do we want 3 offers at full price, or do we want 18 above full price with people willing to offer up, what can I say, proof of funds to cover the appraisal gap and things like that. So first thing, know your bleep, 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 know your stuff, people. Study the market, prepare the property, have an extraordinary vision for preparing the property, we'll come back to educating the seller about the negotiating strategy. So prepare the property, do the twilight shoot, do the drone flyover if it's appropriate, depends on your market. Really, really do a gorgeous job. As much pre-marketing as is possible. I have people push back on me and say coming soon is not allowed in my market. Okay, I'm never recommending that you violate the rules of your board or of the state's real estate commission. I am very, very grateful that the real estate commission in the state of Colorado tries so hard to protect the consumer. And anytime they come out with a rule that slaps agents down and makes them behave, I'm supportive. So don't violate any rules, but do whatever it takes to get maximum visibility for this property. All right. Now, as you're heading into posting it, this is where we need to talk about what will the negotiating strategy be and how are we going to handle showings. So we've got to discuss this with the seller. And this is the part that's, I think, controversial. Maybe it was 2 years ago, someone in the mastermind at my brokerage shared that the way he handles multiple offers is he tells everybody what he has. I've got 525 and 30,000 appraisal gap coverage and a 2-week lease back. What do you got?
But Amy, you can do that.
Right. People say, well, you can't. Well, you can do anything that the seller instructs you to do in writing, right? So I think the question becomes not, is it legal? Although, yes, we have to get past that question, is it legal? And plenty of us who are old school, who have been doing this a while, feel like there's a reason we can't. I think we had a really, really lively discussion in our brokerage this week about, well, does it benefit your client? Because if you can persuade your client that this is a good idea and get them to write in the listing agreement that they want this done, then it's fine and we have our marching orders. But now we can make the argument that it will or won't benefit your client. And it's fascinating, Charlie, to hear people argue, because to my ears, they were both extremely believable. Plenty of people said, so you tell them we've got 525 on the table, and they say, great, I'll go 530, and they would have blind gone 580 if you hadn't told them, right?
Yep.
There is some argument that when you say highest and best, they're just shooting in the dark and they have no idea.
Right.
But this one guy who's been doing this for years can tell you exactly what happens. He'll say, I've got 525. And somebody will say, fine, I'll go 530. And he'll say, I've got 530. And they'll say, fine, I'll go 550. And what happens is they do this for 3 days.
Yep.
And he calls them and he texts them and he just keeps people in the loop. And he says, and they start self-selecting out. You're rich for my blood, I'm out. Yep. So he basically is creating an auction.
An auction, yeah.
But he starts by saying, I can't stand it when my buyer is in your position, so I'm going to be fair. I'm going to tell you what it would take to win. Right. And you decide if you can handle it. I don't know how we could prove that one or the other would have gotten a higher price. I really don't. He's getting extraordinary high prices. I don't know. Do you have a thought? I mean, it would be our opinion and not based on empirical evidence as to whether highest and best versus transparency will get you more.
I think transparency probably, because I mean, you know that when there's been a highest and best, that somebody's lost by just a few thousand, and had they known, they would have gone higher.
Sure.
That happens all the time.
Sure.
And we have this custom that doesn't appear to be written anywhere that I've seen. And you know what? If it's written somewhere, it's buried in the code of ethics or in some state law.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it, right? And I say that with all sincerity.
Yes.
But there's this custom like, well, no, you certainly cannot share what the other offers are, right?
Well, there's this idea that we've been lied to in the past by agents. I have 5 offers. This. He actually blacks out their name and texts everybody a picture of it.
Okay.
He doesn't make them trust him.
Yeah.
Heck no.
But I mean, at least the code of ethics does say we have to treat all parties honestly. It doesn't say fairly, by the way. It says honestly. So And then when we're doing escalation clauses in our market, you do show the winner what the losers was, right?
Well,
That way there's
only if you
proof.
agree to that clause.
Correct.
You know.
But no, I mean, I've often wondered, why wouldn't you just tell everybody this is where we're at, you know?
100%. I'd clean it up. I'd counter and say, I appreciate everybody's offers, you know, countering at X.
Yep.
Clean up a contract, no escalation necessary. You said
But,
you 550 it is.
Yeah. On the flip side, 3 days of this is torturous.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Because it's like, okay, we'll go to 550 and you think you're good. And the other party goes, well, we'll go to 560. And, you know, that's so, you know, I get how some people would be put off by that.
100%.
But then again, if that's the way that we always did it, then it'd be fine. Right. I mean, well, you know, it's just so interesting that, you know, there's these, you have like the code of ethics, you have laws, and then you have these strange customs that are often by jurisdiction, right? And it's just the way that it's always been. In DC, you fill out a financial information form for the buyers. They write like their whole financial history down.
Okay.
But if you cross the Potomac River, which is not exactly wide, and you buy in Northern Virginia, there's no financial information form there. Sure. We don't ask for that. Sure. We just rely that the lender who pre-approved you, you know, that if he said you're good, then you're good.
Yeah.
It's just custom, and it's just so funny how the customs are different in some markets.
Yeah.
The listing agents always show the homes, and when I tell people, well, yeah, you know, I had $1.5 million listing in the district, and I had it up on a lockbox. They're like, you did what? I'm showing the properties that are 200. I'm meeting the people there. I'm selling that property.
Right.
That's the custom.
Sure.
So for all we know, Amy, maybe someplace in this country, there's the custom of almost the auction thing. Well, of course we share. That's just the way we do it. It's just not the way it is in your market or my market. But, sure. You know, it's just funny that there's like these customs become laws almost that are passed down from realtor generation to generation. And it may not be the best way. I've said for years, why don't we do a deal sheet where you put like all the terms on like 1 or 2 pieces of paper, the parties agree to it, and then you draw up the contract. Instead of drawing up this 30-page thing and going back and forth, back counteroffer, why don't we just have like a deal sheet?
More like...
Well, it's because we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The commercial guys do it. Yeah. Why can't the resident? So anyway, now I'm really going down.
Well, but everybody has to consider, is it in the seller's best interest, right? And if you're violating customer tradition, of course, you have to make sure it doesn't violate rules. And then you have to document. So this can't be, well, I heard it on a show, so I tried it. Right. You have to discuss it with your seller. You have to discuss it with your managing broker. And then you have to get it in writing. You have to amend the listing agreement. You have to put something in additional provisions that makes it clear this is how this will be handled. Yeah. Right. And when you said it sounds, I can't remember what you said. It's a lot of work. I don't know that it's more painful to the buyer's agents and the buyers are suffering no matter what. It's painful no matter what. Yeah,
I think that, you know, highest and best, you know that like highest and best is due by 5. You know who the winner is by 8. Where you had said this one guy, sometimes this drags on a couple days.
This is during showings. You know, you put it on the market on Thursday and you say, we will not accept an offer till Monday. And then people are just blowing up his phone. Yep. Right. We've got 40, 60. I don't know if your market is the same as ours. You know, we have 90 showings in 2 days. Like we're having to set 15-minute increments in showing time, and we're going to get to talking about that too. So this is one of the things I put in my checklist. Set aside your weekend. It's time to start planning that this is how it will be. Don't be bitter, don't be crabby, don't be mad that your phone blew up. This is the market that we're in. You're going to work really, really hard for 4 days, and then you have to do the rest of your job also. And don't be a crybaby. That's the way this is. And if you do an extraordinary job and you guide your seller through this and you get them top dollar, right? Now you have bragging rights to go get another listing. So I think you need a process and you have to decide what that is, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Get an agreement with the seller, get it in writing in the listing agreement, make sure it doesn't violate anything in your state or at your brokerage. And like I say, it's being hotly debated at my brokerage right now. I have been a friend of this guy for years. And when he first rolled this out, the rest of us in the mastermind were not quietly judging him. Like, for real. We talked about him behind his back.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And now we're all like, wait a minute. He's continued to do this all these years, and now we're listening. I think everything changes, and I think we need to really question our long-held beliefs about whether they are simply tradition or they have
Yes,
the seller.
I agree. Yep.
So establish a plan with the seller, and then we need to start disclosing in MLS, right? So when you post the property, a few things that need to go into the MLS. Any COVID guidelines or any maybe your own, like in Colorado, the COVID guidelines are so stringent, we don't need to make them more strict, but maybe yours are super loose and your seller is not comfortable. Your seller can control, it's their property.
Right.
Your seller can make whatever requirements they want. So in the state of Colorado, we can only have 2 buyers and 1 agent in the house at a time, and they have to wear a mask and gloves. They aren't supposed to touch anything. You decide what the COVID guidelines are and put those in MLS. What are your showing window times? Now they'll figure it out if you're using showing time or a showing service like that. When they try to book the showing, they'll find out. But I would just post it. I would say we have a 30-minute showing window. That is the limit of the showing that you can have. We have had many properties and many agents limiting it to 15 minutes. We had an argument at our brokerage that if you only give people 15 minutes in the property, you're going to up the bounce rate, right? The hysteria, the pressure to make a decision in such a short amount of time.
Interesting thought. Yeah.
But there was an agent who shared that he could not get an appointment to show his own listing. He said it was full. I couldn't show my own listing. It was full for 3 straight days. There was no time prior to bed, like 9 at night when my clients are trying to go to bed, maybe. Right. No. So have a plan for that and then adapt as necessary. If the days have filled up and all your 30-minuters are full and then your phone is blowing up with people begging to get in, you might have to change it to 15 minutes.
Yep.
The other things that you could put in the MLS is what is the deadline, if there is going to be a deadline. I know an agent who doesn't give a deadline. He doesn't say, we'll cut it off at. He just says, we require 24 hours for acceptance. I know buyer's agents who are using short deadlines as a tactic. And this is another sidebar, looking at the clock, sidebar to the buyer strategy. But we have buyers writing offers that have a 6-hour expiration time. And you could make the argument that that's ridiculous because the seller is in control. But once the offer expires, it's not legally binding. And they run and write another offer.
Yeah.
So we have people writing multiple offers at the same time, which in Colorado is absolutely a violation. You know, you have 3 or 4 offers out there at once. If 2 of them get accepted, you're legally in trouble. Well, they're like, nah, I have outs. I'll just claim inspection or whatever. Yep. And so to order to get around violating the rule, they make the fuse so short that technically it expired. But of course, you can always revive an expired contract.
Sure.
So that's a buyer agent tactic that is being used. So you decide. He's insisting on a 24-hour for acceptance, and that's the way he's handling it. Others are saying, we're going to list it on Thursday. We're going to show it until, we had one who say all showings are cut off at noon on Sunday. The answer will be given at 5 on Sunday. That's rough for me. 5 hours to sort through all that would be rough, especially since the offers would continue to trickle in. So you have to come up with your own strategy and tell the seller how it will be handled. Be clear about whether or not the seller reserves the right to accept an offer prior to the deadline you set.
Yep. That is a controversial topic because of it.
Put it in the MLS.
Exactly.
Right? Yep. Planning to accept contracts until Monday at noon. Seller reserves the right to accept an offer sooner. And if they do, show professionalism. Message every single agent that it is under contract before you change the status in the MLS. Don't just let them find out the hard way that they can't get into the property. You decide whether to refuse love letters and whether to refuse escalation clauses and put that in the MLS.
Yep. Yeah, I think this is all setting the expectations for a smooth transaction for you and your seller. It's just so funny. If we do a little bit of work ahead of time, it saves us a lot of pain later. But go on. I know we're running out of time and you got other stuff.
So tell me, do you want me to finish it? We barely have a minute.
Well, I don't know how much stuff you've got left.
Well, but I mean, do you have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or do you have 1?
I have 2.5. Go.
Okay, all right. So be courteous when you're working with the buyer's agents.
Yeah.
Like, we all knew what we were getting into. Please, please, please be courteous. plan to be very busy for a long weekend. Do your best, have a plan, hire help, whatever it takes. Have a communication plan. Be proactive in communicating with the buyer's agents. Once you have the first offer on the table, inform everyone. Right? Now, this is something, Charlie, you tell me what you think. This one agent is madly texting and calling, and he does this. I think he said he had sent 400 texts in a single day. I suggested, and nobody bit, but I love my idea, that we create a formatted email that has all the terms and a timestamp that says, here's where we are. And every single agent on, who has a showing or who has an offer on the table gets updated with the update. And you can call it property address update. And everybody gets copied simultaneously. One of the discussions at my brokerage was bias. Showing fairness to all concerned. When everyone's copied on the exact same, blind copied, right? You don't have to see.
Right, of course.
Blind copied on the email. Everybody's getting the same communication. No appearance of bias whatsoever. I like my idea. All of this is still in motion.
But yeah, if you're sending out 400 text messages, chances are you're forgetting to reply to one of them.
And are you saying
it gets buried? Yep. Yeah, that's tricky. Okay, good.
If you're going to double end your own listing, you have to disclose that. If you're going to cut commission and your offer is going to have win for that reason, you've got to explain that. When you accept the offer, you really need to acknowledge receipt of the offer, right? First, acknowledge receipt. And this is just communication plan. Have a really clear communication plan. Use a multiple offer spreadsheet. Don't have a pile of them and expect your seller to be able to navigate all that. And I think I'm out of time, and I have more, but
you are out of time. It's always good content. Appreciate you joining us. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.